A very good evening, guys. Hope you're all having a nice day. I'm Achyuta from CSE second year.
I'm Sharwani from second year CSE.
And with that being said, I'm going to begin the coding session. So, most of you might think coding is intimidating, but I think you might change your opinion after this. I'm going to begin the session with the three W's of coding. So, the three W's actually stand for what is coding, why should you learn to code, and where is coding used. So, let me begin with the first W of coding. What is coding? Coding is a list of step by step instructions that get computers to do what you want them to do. Coding makes it possible for us to create computer software, games, apps, and websites. That's amazing. No, I think that like when I first joined in my BTech and I was really confused with all this stuff, I would think that maybe coding is too tough for me to do. But it's actually not that. So, with that being said, let's just move on to our next W, which is why should you learn to code? One of the strongest and most obvious draws of learning to code is the earning potential for coding and programming professionals. That's great, right? Who wouldn't want a good amount of money? And learning to code has the inadvertent effect of teaching you how to think. So when you try to solve a code, it takes a lot of time and mind to get the desired output, which makes you think and which makes you grow. So I think surely coding has its benefits. So, what do you think are a few applications of coding in your real life and where is coding used? While computer science deals with high level theoretical ideas, almost every aspect of modern life relies on coding. Every application on phone, tablet, or computer uses computer languages to run. And not only has C given birth to C++, a programming language including all the features of C in addition to the concept of object-oriented programming, but various other programming languages that are extensively used in today's world like MATLAB and Mathematica are also subparts of C. And you might come across MySQL in your future classes, and MySQL again being an open source project used in DBMS was written in C. So basically, coding in its most basic terms is really just assigning a task to a computer to do it basic on your logical guidelines. So it's basically like your mom gives you a task, but only in this case you're human. So moving further, I will introduce you to C and a few components of it. C is a procedural programming language. It was initially developed by Dennis Rich in the year 1972. It was mainly developed as a system programming language to write an operating system. And the main features of C include low level memory access, a simple set of keywords, and a clean style. And these features make C language suitable for system programming like an operating system or compiler development. Is it not too clear? Like, if you know C, you can easily grasp the knowledge of other programming languages that uses the concept of C. And one of the most popular uses of C was the creation of compilers. Compilers for several other programming languages were designed keeping in mind the association of C with low level languages, making it easier to be comprehensible by machine. Since I have mentioned a compiler, let's just actually use one. So open your Google Chrome and type online C compiler, and you'll find a few options like online GDB, programmers, tutorials point, onecompiler.com and such stuff. So today what we are going to use is online C compiler by online GDB. Okay, so this is what your compiler looks like. There is run, debug, stop, share. So let's run the program and see what happens. Yeah, so it prints hello world. And not only can you use such online compilers, but also you can use applications like Visual Studio Code or Code Blocks to code C. Visual Studio Code is very useful. It's like a streamlined code editor with support for development operations like debugging, task running, and version control. Okay, so I think Visual Code is pretty useful. You can not only code C but also the other programming languages which you wanted to do in further. So I recommend Visual Studio Code. With that being said, let me explain what's on my screen. So the first line hash include stdio.h. It's a header file. So you might be thinking, what is a header file? stdio.h is a header file which has the necessary information to include the input or output related functions in our program. So you might actually wonder what is a header file in general. So header files are needed to declare functions and variables that are available. And unless you have a header file, you can't declare available functions and variables. So as you can see here, there's printf hello world. You cannot use this printf hello world unless you've declared a header file here. So, and the next is int main. The int main here indicates that the main can return a value, some integer type data. And so like you might be thinking like, is there something which does not return a value? Well, there is. When you give void main and run, yeah, there are some warnings and there are some errors here, because void main indicates that the main function will not return any value, but the int main indicates that the main can return integer type data. So let's try removing the return 0 and check what happens. Yeah, it prints hello world. So basically what happened here was void main makes sure that like you do not have a return type after it get prints, but in during int, when you put int main and run, you get a return integer type data. But you don't need to put a return 0 here, like in the previous one we had int and then there was return 0. Int can even function without return 0. So yeah, you can see hello world, it just get print and there are no errors. So let's just try modifying and playing with this a bit. You can type anything you want, like hi, I am Achyuta, and let's give another statement, I study in Amrita, and semicolon. A semicolon is really necessary while you're coding C, because it makes sure that you know your command is really proper. And maybe if you want to know what happens if you don't keep a semicolon, let's just not keep and try. See, the compiler throws an error. So let's just put back our semicolon and see. Okay, so the output is hi, I'm Achyuta, I study in Amrita. So I don't think this is quite pretty because Achyuta and I have technically merged. So what do you think must we do to make it pretty and also like to easily understandable? Let me introduce you to \t in the first. Yeah, so you can see that now it's quite good because it hi, I am Achyuta and I study in Amrita are a space apart. So \t actually works to give a space between the two. And if you want this to be in separate lines, like hi, I'm Achyuta and I study in Amrita in separate lines, let's try doing that also. \n. Okay, so when we use \n, yeah, you can see both of them are in separate lines, and I can see in the comments that someone has put \n, and that's really good. Yeah, so this is what happens. Hi, I'm Achyuta, I study in Amrita is printed and it's quite pretty. So that's the use of \, and you can give multiple sentences, like you can give a \n here and give another statement. Let me just copy this and paste and run. See, you can just give multiple statements like that. Yeah, so that's how our compiler works. And let me take you to our next topic, which is data types. In C programming, data types are declarations for variables. So these determine the type and size of the data associated with variables. Like, let me give you an example. So basically what a data type is, if I give int x semicolon, here int is the data type and x is the variable. So int is a data type, and there are many other data types like char, double, long, int long, such stuff. So int is basically the data type here and x is a variable. It can be x, y, or your name or any other stuff like that. I'll be coming to a few rules of variables in the further session. So let me give you an example now. Let me give int a is equal to 2 and char b is equal to S, and I'll explain what I actually did here with the single quotes so that you understand it better. And let me just remove a printf statement because I've only taken int and char. Let me give int data type %d \n comma, and let me just copy the same, char data type %c and b. Okay, so you might be confused like what has she done. So the thing is, okay, so I've not given b here. Let me give b. Okay, and now run. Yeah, so what actually happened here is I have given a value 2 to A and a value S to B. Here A is an integer and B is a character. So in the printf statement, what I've done is I've put something called a %d. A %d here is a format specifier. So you might wonder what is a format specifier. A format specifier is like it is used during input and output functions like in printf and scanf, and I'll be talking about scanf next. So it is basically a way to tell the compiler what type of data is in a variable during taking inputs during scanf or printing using printfs. So basically I have taken a is equal to 2, which is an integer, and b is equal to s, which is a character. So let's try giving a is equal to b and see what happens. Yeah, it throws an error because b is a character and a is an integer. So you cannot, as like they cannot be equal because an integer and character cannot be equal. And you might think, why have I written only s here? I can like something like this and run. Yeah, you can see there's an error again because character gives only a single value, so you can give anything like s and run, or you can even give numbers. Actually you can give 1 and you can run. Yeah, so like that, character takes a single value, like it prints a single value. And you can also use float, double, and many other data types which you want to. So I'll move to the next topic, which is variables. And I know I've already mentioned variables like so many times, but let me just give you a brief into what is a variable. So a variable is nothing but a name given to a storage area that our programs can manipulate, and each variable in C has a specific type which determines the size and layout of the variable's memory and the range of the values and the set of operations that can be applied to the variable. So like variable is pretty useful stuff. So can anyone say what was a variable in my previous code? Okay, let me just tell you. So my variable was a and b. I have taken int a. Here int is a data type and a is a variable. And for character, okay, let me just remove this and talk about the variables now. So here a is a variable. You might be thinking like, can I give anything as my variable? Like for example, 1, 2, 3, 4 and run. You can't, because there are certain rules you must follow while you're assigning a variable. So before that, let me tell you some types of variables in C, like local variable, global variable, static, automatic, and external variable are like few types of variables in C. And now let's look into something very interesting called rules of defining variable. So a variable can have alphabets, digits, and underscore. Well, that's interesting. I think after looking into the next point, you might not feel too good about this point. So yeah, a variable name can start with alphabet and underscore only, and it can't start with a digit. So you might be wondering, she just said that a variable can have alphabets, digits, and underscore, and now she's saying that it can only be alphabet and underscore only. So actually the thing is, a variable can have all the three things like alphabets, digits, and underscore, but it must only start with an alphabet or digit. So here we have started it with a digit like 1, 2, 3, 4, and when we ran it, you can see, 1 second, the compiler slow. Okay, I'll just open this again. Yeah, let me give int a, which is our variable. Okay, let me try giving int 1a and run. Yeah, you can see there's an error here. It's throwing an error. The compiler is throwing an error. Okay, when it's int a, it just prints hello world. And let me try giving an underscore now. Int underscore a. Yeah, it's just hello world. There are no errors because you can start a variable only with an alphabet or an underscore. You cannot start it with a digit. And moving to the next rule, it's no white space is allowed within the variable name. Okay, so let's experiment this. Let's give int coding and a white space between code and ing. Yeah, it throws an error again because there's a white space between the two words, so which cannot be done in case of variables. And the last rule, a variable name must not be reserved word or keyword, for example int go to etc. Okay, I always wanted to give something like int, that seems so cool, don't you think? Okay, so when I give int, it throws an error. So I don't think the compiler is as cool as you are. So we cannot give int or int char. It's run. Yeah, you can't. And int double. You can't. So you cannot use some reserved words. So let's not try using and let's not try being cool. Okay, so let's move to our next topic, which is pretty interesting, which is input in C. So I think you might have understood what I'm talking about next. Like input, we are going to take an input. Let's start. Let's take something like int age. Okay, let's take int age, and in the print statement enter your age in the pretty backslash n. Then let's take scanf percentage d. You know what is percentage d. And then ampersand age. Don't worry guys, I'll tell you what everything is once we run our code. Your age is percentage d comma age, and semicolon is must. Okay, so enter your age. I think you would be 18 or 17 now. Okay, so your age is 18 got printed. Let me explain you what actually happened. So when you take an input in C, you take an input in C through scanf. So I think you understood the part where I've given int age. So I've declared an integer age, and the printf statement is quite clear because it just asked you to enter your age here. And in the scanf, I've taken percentage d first, which is a format specifier for int. So, and after that, I've taken ampersand age. You might wonder what is this? Why did she use an and here? It's not an and, it's actually an ampersand. Like that's how you say it in C. So an ampersand allows us to pass the address of variable number which is in the place of memory where we stored information. Like this is basically like what scanf reads. So when you give some age, like I have given 18 here, you can see that it reads 18 and passes through the printf statement, and we get your age is 18. You can see that I did not give 18 here, I just give percentage d and age, which means the age which you have entered here shows here. Your age is 18. So, and you can think like I have given ampersand age here and I just give age here. So let's try giving ampersand and see what happens. Yeah, it throws an error because you can't use ampersand in. Okay, let me stop this first. Yeah, you can't use ampersand in printf statement. So let's try this again. Let's enter 23. Your age is 23. So that's how input works. And now let's try taking multiple things, like let me take int x comma y comma sum. So basically what we're going to do now is sum of two numbers. So enter the numbers to be added, and here what I'll do is I'll put another percentage d because I have two values now. In previous question, like in the previous example, I had only int age. Age was the only variable, and now I have x and y, and also sum. Like we don't take the answer first and then declare the question. No, we take the questions and then declare the answer. So that is why I'm not taking another percentage d here, because the sum is gonna be our answer. Okay, so and x ampersand y and semicolon is a must, and the sum of two numbers is percentage d. And can someone say what's going to come here, like instead of age what is going to come?
Sum.
Yeah, that's right. Let's give
But we
some.
haven't calculated sum right there.
Yeah, that is what I'll tell you next. Okay, so I've given sum here because when you see that this percentage d needs a value, the value which we enter here, they'll get added. So you might be thinking like there's something missing. Where am I supposed to add it? So then here comes something called assigning x plus y. So it's just like basic mathematics that you have done in your 12th. Like, okay, it's not in your 12th, you have done it in like in your kindergarten age itself. So it's just like that. You have to take sum is equal to x plus y, and this is called assigning. You have assigned a variable sum is equal to a variable x plus a variable y, and your variable is an integer. So let's run and see what happens. Okay, two numbers. Like, does anyone want to give some numbers? Any numbers which you like? Okay, then I'll take my favorite numbers 2 and 4. Yeah, 2 plus 4 is 6. So you see, you understand how it works. Like, if any one of you has any doubt regarding this, you can ask me. So basically, I've just taken sum is equal to x plus y, and I've taken two percentage d's here because I have two values, x and y, and also the sum here. And you know why the ampersand doesn't come here, right? Because we don't take ampersand in printf statements. Okay. Okay, so I'll be moving to our next topic, which is operators. Operators sounds fun to me. I don't know how it sounds to you, but I think it will surely sound funny to you also. So basically, it's like the C programming language comes with very rich inbuilt functions. Like, there is a vast use of operators in all programming languages. And operators are a useful and powerful tool in C programming language. Like, without them, the functionality of C is like pretty useless. It makes it easy for a programmer to write codes very efficiently and easily when you use operators. So basically, an operator is a symbol that operates on a variable or value. It is used for performing certain operations like arithmetical, logical, relational, etc. So such stuff can be done using operators, and there are a few operators in C language like conditional, arithmetic, logical, bitwise, assignment operators, and we also have some special operators like size of, pointer operator, reference operator, etc. So that's about a few operators, and in this session I'm going to talk about two operators, which is arithmetic and relational. So you can just take example of these, and let me tell you what happens here. Okay, so we have taken sum. Plus is basically for addition. So when you take, let's take minus now, and enter, and two numbers 6 and 3 maybe. Okay, so 6 minus 3 is 3. So basically I've just done subtraction here using the minus operator. Minus is like an arithmetic operator, and is equal to is an assigning operator. You can also do division, like sum is equal to x by y. Let's take 8 and 4, you get 2. Let's take multiplication now and see what happens. 6 and 5 is 30. And if you want the like the this thing to change, you can just change this, like the subtraction, or like the difference, or the like if you want them to change, like I just changed this part so as to make you understand, but you can also change the output if you like. And let me talk about something really interesting now, which is modulus. So you might think this is percentage symbol, but this is actually not that. In C, we call it sum is equal to x modulus y, which means, let me just run and show you. Okay, two numbers, let's take 6 and 5. You can see 1. Can any one of you tell me what just happened here? Like, just a
Give
guess
the
is also
reminder.
okay.
The
Give the
quotient
reminder.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So when you divide 5 by 6, you can say 5 ones 5 and 6 minus 5 is 1. I know that's very basic, but yeah. So you get 1 as the remainder. So using sum is equal to x modulus by, you find the remainder. And you might think like, why did she give 6, 5? Like, you can give any numbers you like, but what if you give a lesser number first and then a higher number? Let's see what happens. Let's give 5. Okay, let's give 4 and 5. You can see 4 is printed because when we use the modulus function between a smaller number and then a greater number, the smaller number gets printed first. Okay, so it's like you can try with other numbers too, like 1 and 6. Yeah, 1 is printed, and 2 and 6, 2 is printed. It's just like that. So when you give a lower number first and then a higher value, it actually prints the lower value as the output. Okay, so that was about our arithmetic operators, and there are many other operators as you can see here. So now which one should I talk? I think I'll talk about relational operators because that's beside arithmetic operators. Okay, so let me just like, would anyone want to give an example of relational operators? Like, did anyone study it in the past or have any clue about what I'm going to talk about next?
Greater than, less than, equal
Yeah,
to.
yeah, that's absolutely right. Okay, so let me talk about relational operators. Relational operators are like important for decision making. They allow us to compare numeric and char values, like to determine which one is greater than, less than, equal to, or not equal to another. And relational operators are like binary, which means that they require only two operands. So let's put all this in the form of a code. Let's give int x is equal to, okay, so I'll again take my favorite digits. Okay, x is equal to 6 and y is equal to 4. So let me take them, and then I need two printf statements to tell you what I'm actually talking about. Okay, so let's give percentage d than percentage d is percentage d, comma, oh wait, let's give this after this, comma, x comma y comma x is greater than y, because I've taken greater value here, and our semicolon is a must, and control C and control V since I cannot type it all again, and less than. Okay, so we clearly know that 6 is greater than 4. So how do we show it in the form of a code? So this is how it's done. Let's run the code. Yeah. So basically what happened here is, here the percentage d is greater than percentage d is 6 being greater than 4, which is percentage d. So the percentage d, it's a format specifier as I told you earlier. So it prints only two values, which is 1 and 0. So the 1 is when the statement is true, which is 6 greater than 4 is true. So it prints 1. And 6 being less than 4 is 0 because it's false, because 6 is not less than 4, it's greater than 4, so it's obvious, I know. So yeah, it's like that. It prints 0, which means it's false, and the first statement prints 1, which means it's true. Okay, so I hope you understood this. It's like it's just like basic ones, and we also have others like is equal to and not equal to in our relational operators. So I've used greater than and less than in this example of mine. So I hope you've understood operators and all the things that I've taught.
So this brings us to control structures. This is like the basic constituents or building blocks of computer programming. And what they do is analyze the variable and choose different paths or directions depending on the respective condition. And control structures are divided into two. That is selection, which is also called as conditional, and iteration, used with loops. So conditionals are how we can control the sequence or flow of code that is executed based on the different conditions or parameters. And the selection control structures consists of if, if else, else if, the if else if ladder, nested if, and the switch case. Whereas the iteration loops, they are used when the repetition of a certain statement or a sequence of statements have to be executed. So, and this consists of for and while. So let's first get to the selection control structures. So let's start with if and if else. So in if we're going to keep a condition over here. Now, if the condition is met, then the statements under this particular block will be executed. If it doesn't satisfy the condition, then nothing will be printed. So let's take a look at this using the compiler. So first, let's declare an integer variable x, and so let's ask the user to give the value of x. So as Achita said, we'd use scanf. And let's say we want to let the user know if the value of x is greater than 5. So we'd use if and x greater than 5. And within this block, we'd put printf. To show the output on the screen, we'd put is greater than 5, and we'd put the variable name, that is x. Now let's try executing. So I'm gonna give 6. So we get 6 is greater than 5 because it's 6 greater than 5 over here. It satisfies the condition. So obviously this would be executed, this statement. But let's run it again and let's give 4. We don't get any output because this doesn't satisfy the condition. So that's where the if-else part comes into picture. Over here, this is pretty much similar to if, except we'd have an output regardless of whether it meets the condition or not. So if it doesn't meet the condition, then it's going to execute the statement under the else block. So over here, let's say we want to let the user know that it's not greater than 5. So we'd put the else part. And printf is not, and we'd put x. So previously when we had entered 4, we didn't get any output, but now we get something. 4 is not greater than 5. So depending on what you want the user to know, you have to choose between if and if else. And with the if-else ladder, it's pretty much the same thing, except we're not always going to have one condition, right? We might have various conditions. So this is where the if-else ladder comes. So what would happen is first it go to the if part. If it doesn't satisfy the condition, then it'll go to the else if part and see if it satisfies this condition. If it doesn't satisfy that also, then it'll keep going on. But if none of them are working out, it just go to the else part. So let's take a look at one. So let's say we have to type a program to find out if a number is positive, negative, or equal to 0. So let's keep this part there. So we're going to ask the user to enter a number, and we put if x is greater than 0, then obviously that's positive. So and we have 2 more conditions, so we can put else if. So we'd keep x is less than 0, and that would be it's negative, right? And if it's neither positive nor negative, then we can say that it's 0. So we don't have to put else if x is equal to 0, right? We can just put an else. So that would be the number is 0. So this is how you use the else if ladder. So let's run it. Oh, I forgot to keep this. Okay, yeah, so let's say we enter 10. We get 10 is positive. Now, a negative number, okay, -8. We get -8 is negative. And 0, the number is 0. So, and since we have declared the variable as an integer, you must enter only integer values, or else you'll probably get the incorrect output. So that's how you use the if-else if ladder. And for nested if, this is used when you want to keep an if or another if-else statement within another if statement, like how the syntax is shown over here. So I'll show you that using the compiler. So let's say we're going to declare two integers x and y, and okay, let's assign the value 10 to x and y is 15, and we want to know if both the numbers are positive. So you can use the nested if for this. So if x is greater than 0, and within that it would be if y is greater than 0, and then we'd put printf both the statements, I mean both the values of the variables x and y are positive. If this part is satisfied, like the condition over here is satisfied, but the one over here is not satisfied, then this will not be printed. So both of them have to be satisfied. You can even keep an else statement within it, like if like else if it's not greater than 0, then both of them are not positive. So let's see what happens here. So since 10 and 15 are both greater than 0, we get both of them are positive. Now let's change 1 to negative. Yeah, we don't get any output because we didn't exactly keep an else statement, so it doesn't get executed. The condition isn't met. So that's all about nested if. And now we have switch case. So this is also a selection control structure. So what happens in this is sometimes like the user might enter a value, and that value can go inside this switch thing, like the expression. And we're going to have various cases. This is really similar to the if-else if ladder. We have multiple conditions. So pretend the user enters like 1. So this constant expression area, wherever it's equal to 1, that part is going to be executed. Like the statements under that case will be executed. So also we should use break after every case, or else it won't stop executing. It'll even execute the statements under the next case, and we don't want that, right? I'll show you that on the compiler. And just like we have else in the if-else if ladder, we have default over here, but it's optional. So okay, let's say we're going to print a program for like the user wants to know the price of various fruits. So we'll tell the user to print one for um, one for apple, two for mango, three for orange. So then we take the input from the user. So it would be this and ampersand x. And we put the switch over here, and the expression over here, it's x. So that's what the user is entering. So then we open the block, and so can anyone tell me what I can keep as the first case?
1.
Yeah, good. So case 1. So if the user enters 1, then the statements under this case 1 are going to be executed. So let's say the price of one apple is like 40 rupees. Yeah, so and then we keep a break statement. I'll also show you what happens if we don't keep the break statement, and we can keep 3 cases like this. We can just change the value here. And of course, sometimes the user might not enter 1, 2, or 3. They might end up entering something else. So if we want to let the user know that they have entered the wrong input, we can include the default over here, just like we have the else statement. So it would be printf and invalid. So let's take a look at this. So I'm gonna put 2. So we get 50 rupees over here. Now let's put something which is not in the list. So let's put 5. So we get invalid. So this is how switch case works. And if we take out this break over here, what will happen is that if the user enters 1, then this 40 rupees will be printed and it will go to the next case too. And again, 50 rupees will also be printed. So that's not correct. So that's okay. I'll show you. So it prints 40 and 50. So yeah, be careful while writing the code. Also, the switch case is used only for integers and characters. I'll also show you how you can do it using characters. We can just change this to like A, B, and C. So over here, since it's a character, it's gonna be percentage %C. So, and we're gonna have to change this to char. And yeah, this is right. And over here, since it's a character, we know that it's supposed to be enclosed within single quotes, so it would be like this. And don't forget the break. And over here, B. C. So, I'll put A. Yeah, we get the same thing, 40. So it's basically the same thing as integers. So that's about selection control structures. So let's go to the iterations. So first comes the for loop. This is the syntax. So we first have initialization, which is like if you declare a variable and you want to assign a number to it at first, that's initialization. You can also declare the variable within that as well. It's your wish. And we have the condition. So as long as the condition is being satisfied, the iterations will keep increasing. But once it stops, it'll just go to the next statement after this entire for loop. And we have increment also, which I'll be showing you right now. Yeah, so this increment is an operator. So over here I have declared a variable integer equal to 1. And now I'm putting printf I plus plus. So I plus plus is also like I equal to I plus 1. So this is called post increment. So what happens is the value of 1 first gets assigned to this value I, and then only it gets incremented. So when I first print I plus plus, it's not going to be 2, it's going to be 1 because like 1 plus 1 has not been assigned to I yet. So let's see what happens. Yeah, we get 1 and 2. And similarly, we can put decrement as well. So yeah, first you'd get 1 and then it would be I equal to I minus 1 and you'd get 0. Okay, so I'll show you how a for loop works. So as I said, you can also declare the variable within the same line. So I'm going to put int I is equal to 0. That is the initialization part, and we're going to keep a condition. Like we want only the numbers until like 5 to be, basically it should be less than 5. Those numbers should be printed. So it would be I is less than 5, and we're going to use the post increment thing over here. And we're going to put printf the value of I. So for those of you who didn't understand, I'll just explain it using Paint once. So first we're initializing the value of I as 0. So we have I as 0 over here, and we look at the condition is 0 less than 5. So this part is true because 0 is less than 5. So that means the body of the loop gets executed, and first it'll print 0, and after that only it's gonna go to this increment part. So I plus plus means it's gonna become 1. So I is equal to 1 that time, but we don't go back to the initialization condition. We go to the condition. So we get 1 is less than 5, and this is also true, so it prints 1, and again it's going to go back to the increment part. It's going to become 2, and 2 is less than 5, so 2 would get printed, and then it's going to become 3, so 3 is less than 5, so 3 would get printed, and so on. You'd get 4. Now after printing 4, it's going to get incremented to 5. Now 5 is not less than 5, right? That's not true. So that's when the loop stops, and this would be your output. That's all about the for loop. And now we have the while loop. What happens over here is we're going to keep a condition over here, and as long as the condition is being satisfied, the statements under that block is going to get executed. Now it's not necessary that the while loop is going to be executed always, because if the condition is not at all true, then it's not going to execute at all. So I'll show you how the while loop works. So let's declare an integer int I, and we're going to initialize it to 2. Now we're going to put while I modulus 2 is equal to 0. Can anyone tell me what this I modulus 2 equal to 0 means? Okay, that's fine. So that means that, as Achita said, the modulus operator is used to find the remainder. So over here, the value of I is equal to 2. So when we put 2 modulus 2, we obviously don't get any remainder. The remainder is 0. So whenever the remainder is 0, when the number is divided by 2, that's when the body of this loop will be executed. So we're going to put printf is divisible by 2, and if you just execute it like this, it's gonna keep printing infinitely, right? Because there's no breaking point. So what you can do is you can either put break, which is like a loop control statement. Like once the statements over here are executed and it comes to the break part, it'll just stop the entire loop. Or for now, I'm just going to put I plus plus. So when it becomes I plus plus, 2 is going to get incremented to 3. So 3 modulus 2 is not equal to 0, right? It's equal to 1. So it'll print only once. Yeah, it'll print only once. So that's how the while loop works. And that's pretty much all about control structures. And here are the differences between the for and while loops. So the for loops, it's usually used when we know how many times the loop is going to be executed. Like we know how many iterations are going to be there beforehand. Whereas for while loop, we don't exactly know. And in the for loop, if the condition is not put, then the body is just going to keep getting executed infinite number of times. Whereas in the while loop, it's going to result into an compiler error. And as I showed before in the for loop, in the initialization is not repeated. It only happens the first time. After that, it just goes back to the condition. So what happens over here is I have declared a variable called I, which is of the integer type, and I have initialized it to 0 over here. So the starting value is going to be 0. And then after that, it's going to look at the condition over here. So 0 less than 5. And this is true because 0 is less than 5. So then this part is going to get executed. So it's going to print 0 first. And then after that, it's going to go to the increment part, which is I plus plus. I plus plus means I is equal to I plus 1. And as I said before, first the value of this I, which is 0 right now, gets assigned to I, and then after that it becomes 1, and then and then like you'd get the value as 1. So over here would get 1 because we just incremented it. And we won't go back to this initialization step. We would come back to the condition and 1 is less than 5. So again, that is true. So we'd print 1. And you'd do the same thing for like the numbers until 4. When 4 comes, you can see that it's going to get incremented again to 5. So when 5 comes, 5 less than 5, 5 is not less than 5, right? It's equal to 5. So it's not going to get executed. I mean, the loop will just stop. So that's how you get only 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so first we are declaring a variable I which belongs to the integer type, and we're initializing it with the value of 2. And next we go to the while condition. So this is the modulus operator, and that's used to find the remainder. So 2 modulus 2. So when we divide 2 by 2, you get the answer as 1 with no remainder, right? So we say the remainder is 0. So hence the condition is being satisfied. And then next we'll come to the printf statement, and 2 is going to be printed because the value of I is 2. Now we are incrementing it, which means it becomes 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. So again, it's going to go back to the condition. 3 modulus 2 is not equal to 0 because when we divide 3 divided by 2, we get the quotient as 1 and the remainder is 1, right? So this condition does not satisfy. So hence the loop stops. Okay, let's say we first keep it as 3, then it's not gonna execute at all. Like just like I said, it's not necessary that the while loop part is going to be executed even once. It really depends on the condition. So here comes the part where we make our own program. It was like kind of hectic and stuff. I mean, looking at just the syntaxes, but let's actually come to the real part where we frame our own program. So our task is to write a program to find the sum of n numbers, n into n plus 1 by 2. So you can just put up the formula and get the answer, or you can use a for loop. So I'll show you how it works both ways. So let's first declare an integer x and ask the user to enter the number. And let's introduce another one, which is sum. And we're gonna type in the formula over here. So it would be x. And make sure you use the parentheses or brackets properly, or the compiler will get confused. And don't forget the star symbol. Now we can just get sum. Yeah, so what I did was enter the value 5. So it's going to find the sum of numbers until 5. So that would be 1 plus 2, 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. So you get the output as 15. Now this is just directly using the formula and getting the answer, but since we've seen how to use the for loop, I'll tell you how to do that as well. So we'd have for I. So when we're starting to find the sum of the numbers, we're going to start with 1, right? 1 plus 2. So our initial condition is I is equal to 1. And we haven't declared it before, so you can declare it here itself. And we are going to want the number of loops or the number of numbers to find the sum of to be until the value of which the user has given, right? So you can put less than or equal to 15, I mean not 15, x. So, and we put the increment. So after every iteration, the value of I is going to be increased. So let's initialize the value of sum as 0. So for now, sum is equal to 0. So when it first enters the loop, the value of I is 1. So, and the value of sum is initially 0. So what we're going to do is sum plus I. So we'd get 0 plus 1, which is 1. Now the sum is 1. Now again, when we go back, since the value of I has been incremented to 2, now it's going to be sum is, which is 1, 1 plus 2, because the value of I is 2, we'd get 3. And this is just going to keep happening until we reach the value which the user has entered. Oh, I forgot the print statement. And keep the print statement after the loop. Yeah, so we get the same thing. We get 15. So yeah, there were two ways. You can use the formula or you can use the for loop. Whatever is more convenient for you, you can use that. So yeah, that's all about the programs. Yeah, so we are done with today's session. Thank you so much for joining us, and please stay tuned for the follow-up sessions and check out our events page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.